country. But I have serious doubts about your judgment. And those are some of the areas that I want to pursue.
Wow.
First, until you were nominated by the president to be the DNI, you consistently praised the actions of Edward Snowden. Some who, I believe, jeopardized the security of our nation, and then, in an effort to flaunt that, fled to Russia. You even called Edward Snowden, and I quote here, a brave whistleblower. Every member of this committee supports the rights of legal whistleblowers. But Edward Snowden isn't a whistleblower. And in this case, I'm a lot closer to the chairman's words, where he said Snowden is, quote, an egotistical serial liar and traitor who, quote, deserves to rot in jail for the rest of his life. Ms. Gabbard, a simple yes or no question. Do you still think Edward Snowden is brave?
Mr. Vice Chairman, Edward Snowden broke the law. I do not agree with or support with all of the information and intelligence that he released, nor the way in which he did it. There would have been opportunities for him to come to you on this committee or seek out the IG to release that information. The fact is, he also, even as he broke the law, released information that exposed egregious, illegal, and unconstitutional programs that are happening within our government that led to serious reforms that Congress undertook.
Chairman, we got 5 minutes. So I take your answer, and these are your quotes. Brave, please join my bipartisan legislation calling for charges to be dropped against him. Do you disagree that legislation was not appropriate? Do you believe he is brave or not?
Yeah,
back those words?
Once again, Senator, Edward Snowden broke the law. He also released information that exposed the United States government's illegal programs. Your legislation and your words are still your beliefs. Yes or no, please. I'm making myself very clear. Edward Snowden broke the law. He released information about the United States government's illegal activities. If I may just finish my thoughts, Senator. In this role that I've been nominated for, confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will be responsible for protecting our nation's secrets, and I have 4 immediate steps that I would take to prevent another Snowden-like leak.
Ma'am, I would simply ask you again. I don't think you're going to answer. I agree with Tom Cotton. He's a traitor. You, for years, until you got chosen by President Trump, have celebrated this guy as brave. You've called for him to be pardoned, for his charges to be dropped. I cannot imagine a director of national intelligence that would say that kind of behavior is okay. How would we maintain the trust of the IC and the contractors who work?
Shut up,
How would
bro.
we maintain the trust
Democrat.
of our Five Eyes partners? I find it very troubling. Let me move to 702. I know other members are going to raise this. Remember, the 702 is critical to our national security. 60% of the president's daily brief, 60% of the information President Trump gets every day in a PDB will come from this. You've had a long history of opposing 702. Many members of Congress have. But one of the things you've actually done that not many have is not to reform it, but you actually said you wanted to repeal it. But now, whether it's confirmation conversion or whatever, you call 702 vital. And I'm quoting, because of significant FISA reforms have been enacted since you left Congress. Ms. Gabbard, what are the reforms that have led you to now support 702?
In the short time that I have, Senator, I will just note that my actions in legislation in Congress were done to draw attention to the egregious civil liberties violations that were occurring at that time.
Ms. Gabbard, Ms. Gabbard, I ask you a question. Please give me the courtesy of responding. You said the reforms now make you support it. What can you cite? Which reforms?
There are a number of reforms to include getting rid
in the new law,
that all of you and your wisdom.
Ms. Gabbard, my time is getting short, but I got to just tell you, after the reforms were passed into law in April of 24, you went on Joe Rogan's podcast in May. The bill is now law. And you said, quote, this bill took an already bad problem and made it many, many times worse. Again, in my mind, this is a question of judgment. 702 is critical. I appreciate this late conversion, but I'm not sure I buy it because you've had such a consistent position. Again, I know my colleague's going to raise these, but rather than standing up to dictators like Putin and Assad, you've sometimes amplified his talking points. I mean, I just do not understand how you can blame NATO for Putin's brutal invasion of Ukraine. And when Assad used chemical weapons against his own people, you didn't condemn him. I can go through all the quotes. You actually questioned Americans' intelligence. Now, you mentioned a lot about trust. My friend Senator Burr said, we always follow the truth. I say in this committee, the most valuable work I do in the Senate, we have a bipartisan approach to intelligence. I think we have worked to try to keep the intelligence community and earn their trust, and frankly, earn the trust of the American people. But I, respectfully, ma'am, I just don't believe on your judgment and credibility issues that this is the appropriate role that you take going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Collins.
Shut up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms.
Ms. Gabbard, Edward Snowden does stand out as having done particularly grave harm to our national security by revealing top secret information, including sensitive sources and methods, thus jeopardizing agents in the field. So let me ask you a question. If confirmed, would you
What is
support
this lady doing the Republican Party? She's not even a real Republican.
or recommend a pardon or any kind of clemency for Edward Snowden?
Thank you for the question, Senator Collins. If confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence, my responsibility would be to ensure the security of our nation's secrets and would not take actions to advocate for any actions related to Snowden.
So the answer is no. Is
Correct.
that correct? In 2020, you introduced the Protect Brave Whistleblowers Act, which would amend the Espionage Act to make it more difficult to prosecute individuals who reveal classified information. In particular, the bill would allow individuals to disclose even top secret information as long as it's not done with the specific intent to injure the United States or advantage any foreign nation. Your bill would also have created an affirmative defense if public disclosure of classified information were made for several reasons, one of which was to expose gross waste of funds. I strongly oppose this legislation, which would hamper our ability to prosecute
Collins, you
people
suck.
who give our adversaries classified information. So let me ask you this, Ms. Gabbard, do you still support providing individuals who have access to top secret information with the ability to make their own decisions regarding whether that information should be publicly disclosed, even though disclosure may cause tremendous harm to our country or our allies?
Senator, we cannot and should not have individual vigilantes within the intelligence community making their own decisions about how and where and when to expose our nation's secrets. The intent of the legislation that you have pointed out was pointed towards ensuring due process for those who are charged under the Espionage Act in a court of law. This is a law that has been abused in some cases and used for political purposes. President Obama charged more people under the Espionage Act than all other presidents combined. If confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence, my sole focus and goal would be our nation's security, which includes ensuring the security of our nation's secrets. And I would work to make sure that we don't have any disclosures or vigilantes taking it upon themselves. There are numerous legal paths that will protect this information for those who feel they have concerns. And I look forward to working with you and this committee on making sure that those protections are known by every single person in the workforce and effectively implemented.
So you do not support allowing individuals to make their own decisions without authorization to disclose secret information, classified information?
Yes, and I believe we have the legal structure in place for those who have concerns to address them.
As you know, there has been speculation in the press that you met with Hezbollah, a terrorist organization affiliated with Iran. Have you ever knowingly met with any members, leaders, or affiliates of Hezbollah?
No, and it is an absurd accusation.
Let me ask you one final question in the short time we have left. With Hamas, ISIS-K, the Houthis, all the Iranian proxies in Syria and Iraq, Yemen, and al-Qaeda all posing general resurgences in the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia, I'm alarmed at the lack of focus by the IC on this threat to our safety. We don't want to have to call you back to this room after a terrorist attack and ask, how did the IC miss this? Great power competition, China, Russia, definitely pose threats to our country, but the terrorist threat is arguably the most imminent threat, according to former FBI Director Chris Wray. If confirmed, what would be your strategy to refocus the IC on the terrorist threat to our country and to Americans abroad.
Thank you, Senator. I agree with your assessment, and this speaks to the need for the ODNI to exist, to redirect those resources, identifying the gaps in intelligence so that we are able to get ahead of these threats instead of coming around after the fact and trying to assess why did we not know about this sooner so that we could have taken action to prevent it.
Thank you.
Senator Wyden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Ms. Gabbard.
Thank you.
I am going to try to get 4 questions in, so I'll be brief, and if you can reciprocate, that would be very much appreciated. We've been talking about Section 702, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and I believe it's critical that the DNI support additional reforms to protect the privacy of law-abiding Americans. In your written response to committee questions, you wrote, and I quote, "Warrants should generally be required before an agency undertakes a U.S. person query of Section 702. Is this your current position?"
Yes, it is, Senator. And as you'll note in that written response, I noted some exigent circumstances with which there may be other options. But I also want to make a note that a simple warrant requirement is ultimately going to be a policy decision that all of you will make. I would point to history, to some examples.
Time is short. I'm glad you answered in line with your written answer that you support a warrant. Section 702 also involves a huge loophole now that was included recently that could allow the government to force anyone with access to a Wi-Fi router or cable box to secretly participate in the warrantless surveillance program. Do you support, as I do, eliminating this language?
Senator, I would have to look more into that and assess, if confirmed, what the impacts of the implementation of the existing safeguards are and come back to you in Congress as you look at reauthorization.
It is a massive loophole, and I hope to hear, after you've looked at it, that you'll be supportive of my efforts. Let me turn now to the question of the Inspector General situation. Can the President of the United States refuse to fund the Inspector General for the intelligence community despite appropriations from Congress? And here I'd like a yes or no.
Senator, I don't know about the legal authorities, but I understand the essential role that the inspectors general play. And if confirmed, look forward to empowering our inspector general to fulfill their responsibility.
Good, because Congress either has the power of the purse or it doesn't. And I think in your answer to me, you recognize that you have an independent obligation to follow the law. I think that's a constructive answer. Let me turn now to the matter of spying on journalists. You wrote in your response to the committee questions that you support the Biden administration Department of Justice's policy restricting the collection of reporters' records, and you called for the codification of those restrictions. Will you reconfirm that position this morning?
I believe strongly in the First Amendment, which protects a free press.
So you will, in effect, say that you will continue to support the Biden administration policy to protect journalists?
I'm not familiar with the specific Biden administration policy, but I believe strongly in the defense of the First Amendment.
It is a policy that restricts the collection of reporters' records, and you have called for the codification of those records, so I am going to accept that you're not changing your position, and I appreciate it. I've got time, I think, for one more question. While you were in Congress, you introduced legislation prohibiting the government from mandating that Americans' phones or apps include mechanisms to allow the government to bypass encryption or other privacy technology. In your written responses to the committee questions, you reconfirmed your opposition to these mandates. Is that still your position?
Yes, these back doors lead down a dangerous path that can undermine Americans' Fourth Amendment rights and civil liberties.
You are being very helpful by moving so quickly. Let me turn to whistleblowers. You wrote in your response that whistleblowers must have clear, protected channels to report concerns, including the unauthorized transmittal of classified information to appropriate entities such as members of Congress. Do you agree that IC whistleblowers must have a clear path to this committee and that they don't need permission from agencies to talk to us? That's a yes or no.
Senator, the answer is clearly yes. I would like to state a few other actions I would take if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence is, number one, make sure that we don't have illegal and unconstitutional programs within the intelligence community, making sure that we enact security clearance reform to limit access to our nation's top secrets, make sure that every single person in the workforce understands their rights as whistleblowers and the legal channels to take, which would include coming directly to you as members of Congress, as well as establishing a direct hotline to myself should they choose to take that path.
One last question, if I might. Would you support the declassification of the committee's full report on the CIA's torture program?
Senator, I believe in transparency. I have not seen this, and so cannot make an honest assessment for that answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cornyn.
Welcome, Ms. Gabbard. Congratulations and thank you for your service to our nation. I hope you will take to heart the chairman's comments about the exploding bureaucracy, not only in the government generally, but in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. This is a critical role to be played, but unfortunately that role is not made easier or more effective by such a large, unwieldy bureaucracy. Do you believe that the President of the United States should get all of the lawfully collected intelligence that's available in order to inform his judgments as Commander-in-Chief?
Senator, not only is the answer a strong yes, I would say that it is the Director of National Intelligence responsibility to make sure that the President has access to all the intelligence so that he can make the best informed.
I'm seeing a lot of haters in the comments. I don't want to block anyone. I will not block anyone. This channel is free for you. You can quote whatever you want to say. I believe in the First Amendment. But I do want to tell you, Danielle, that you are wrong. She is an honor to the uniform because she did not only always put America first, but she put her life into it. What is your opinion? What makes a good person in the uniform? What is it? Because she did everything that was right. Go ahead, tell me why. Because you know what? I'm not even going to answer. It's just a general comment. I think you're wasting my time. She is a national hero.
Informed decisions for our country.
And you will be the one actually briefing him on a daily basis, correct?
That's correct.
And the President's daily brief, and we've heard that that is composed of about 60% of it's composed of information gleaned by collection under Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. I've heard your comments to Senator Wyden and others. You and I talked about the importance of getting dissenting views in front of the
Lack of honor? Look, man, I don't know if it's something racial. I don't know if it's some liberal propaganda you're putting over here. I bet that if she was a Democrat still, you'll be supporting her. She was the youngest woman elected in the lower house. Okay? She's Samoan, okay? But she's very valuable. She's Hindu. Talking about diversity here, okay? And she graduated with honors, okay? She graduated with honors from becoming an officer when she went to officer candidate school. So that's pretty cool. And you know, as a woman, she's so combat, bro. She just wasn't in the army. And all the respect to people that were in the army but they didn't go to battle. But come on, man. With all the respect to people who serve but they don't get a chance to go to battle. Let's mention she's a person who went to battle. That's, again, all the respect to people who serve and did not go to battle. That is not your fault. But she went to battle, man. You're going to question her? You're a joke, Daniel. You are the joke.
The President so that we don't have groupthink, which can be very dangerous, particularly in the intelligence collection areas. And I appreciate your agreeing that presenting the policymakers, including the President, with dissenting views is very important. Are you aware that overwhelmingly the courts that have looked at a challenge to Section 702 based on the Fourth Amendment and any potential warrant requirement have overwhelmingly said that the Fourth Amendment is not implicated by search of lawfully collected intelligence?
I am aware, yes, Senator.
And do you disagree with that?
What I began to say in answer to Senator Wyden's previous question on this issue is, number one, the decision about a warrant requirement will be yours to make, not mine as the Director of National Intelligence.
You'll be the Director of National Intelligence, and people will be wanting to hear from you about what we should do as policymakers. Admittedly, you're not going to be a policymaker.
Look, she made it clear, man. She's going to lower the chances of the government doing some shady stuff. She's going to lower the chances. What's the problem with that? You know what? I imagine there's a lot of problems with that. You know, people who served with her when she was part of the Democratic Party are shady right now. You know, a person like this who was always a Democrat and who Trump supports should be getting all the support in the Congress. The fact that Congress is not supporting her makes me want to support her more.
Maker, but you certainly will inform us. And wouldn't you do agree that the courts have overwhelmingly held that a warrant is not required, correct?
Yes, Senator, I'm aware of the court rulings. What my commitment is to make sure that we uphold the Fourth Amendment rights of Americans in protecting against unlawful seizure and search. There are many different.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you this: the Fourth Amendment might be the most important amendment it might be, it might be. The first is crucial, but the fourth is so crucial. The right to non-illegal seizure is the most important thing. That separates us from like third world countries, man. Listen, listen. I'd rather have the Fourth Amendment than any other amendment. Listen, an amendment has to go. I ain't letting go of the Fourth Amendment, man. You letting go of the Fourth Amendment, they're gonna knock you, or they're gonna take you in. Because I'm gonna tell you something. In reality, all Americans commit crimes every day. If I follow you all day, am I wrong? If I follow you every day, every single day, you're gonna make a mistake. You run a red light because you didn't see it. You ran a stop sign because you didn't see it. You technically had a little bit of alcohol because it was included in some food you didn't even know and you drove anyways. Maybe you told somebody jokingly, man, I'm gonna unalive you, bro. And then that's technically a threat. So you don't need the government, the police checking up on you all the time. So what is the check on the police of using you? The Fourth Amendment. And she's a protector of that. Come on, bro. Ashton Collins says, "Do you question Biden or Kamala?" Ain't nobody question Kamala. Look, Ashton, Kamala wasn't even voted to be a candidate, man. They gave it to her like if she was a queen or something.
Different ways to do this. The devil is in the details. There are examples of how even in situations under Title I where a warrant is required to surveil a U.S. person.
Title I is different. I agree.
Correct.
I agree with you on that.
But my point, Senator, if I may just finish.
Excuse me. If that was misused in the case of Carter Page, and basically an FBI lawyer lied in order to secure that warrant.
Which is why there are safe.
What would be necessary to be shown in order to establish probable cause to a judge in order to obtain a warrant?
Again, Senator, that's not for me to say. That would be for you all to decide and for the Attorney General to weigh in on.
Do you know what the elements of probable cause are and whether that's a practical and workable solution?
This is the center of the debate, the high standard of probable cause that's required to get a warrant, and why this will continue to be a conversation, again, with the Attorney General weighing in and all of you in Congress making this policy decision.
The CIA director, John Ratcliffe, said during his testimony before this committee that he believed that a warrant is not only.
All right, let's block this guy Fab, because one thing that I'm not gonna allow on this channel is for people to insult this channel. I don't allow that. Some people to try to bring the legitimacy of this channel. You can say that I'm ugly, you can say that I'm an idiot, but when you come and say something like report this channel or why is this channel like garbage, get the fuck out of here. I imagine you don't care because you're not even here anymore. Get out of here. We don't want any haters here. We want you to criticize. We want you to be critical of what's going on. I don't need you to spread no hate. Hating is stupid. Because I ask myself, why would make somebody come to a video and then inspire hate? That doesn't make any sense. Just change the channel, stupid.
Required by law, but is actually impractical. Do you disagree with that or agree with that?
I will be in a better position to make an assessment on the practical implications of this if confirmed as DNI. My commitment remains to uphold the Constitution and Americans' Fourth Amendment rights.
Where would the warrant be sought? Would it be in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, or would it be in some other Article III court?
My understanding is that it would be in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court.
Are you aware of the fact the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court has held that a warrant is not required?
I am aware.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Heinrich.
Well, I would like to know more about that because I don't need no exceptions to the rule. Fourth Amendment is rule. I mean, we already have some things clear. If you're running after somebody, maybe national threats of terrorism, of course, you don't need a Fourth Amendment. And even that, right? I mean, like, if there's an imminent danger, like somebody's gonna like, blow things up right now, like there. But I mean, even if you have an idea that somebody is perhaps a terrorist, you don't need to go to the house without a warrant. Get a freaking warrant. It takes like 20 minutes. Go to a judge, get the warrant, and then and go in the highway and run to his house and arrest the guy. I don't know, but warrant is needed. In my opinion, is needed.
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome. You traveled to Syria and Lebanon in January 2017.
Before we hear this question, please give a like to this channel for the love of God. We only have 4 likes because I forgot to ask for likes, and I also maybe I'm doing kind of like a different content right now. I do political stuff, but I normally do it in Spanish. But I do want to give you consider me like the Spanish guy, Latino guy who's giving you my perspective, and I think it's very important to have different perspective. That's why I encourage you to give your comment and tell me what you think about this. There is a survey, and right now the support is like 50-50 with her. So yeah, thanks for letting me say my piece. You can say your piece, Daniel. There's no problem with you, man. It's just other idiots that come here and they trying to say, oh, I gotta block this channel. Oh, I gotta do this. Like, what's wrong with you? No, you can say whatever you want, bro. Do they block you, Daniel, for saying these kinds of things? You can come on my channel, bro, and you can criticize all you want. I don't care.
Bassam Kawam personally paid for that trip, and Bassam and his brother Ilyas accompanied you to both Lebanon and Syria. The Kawam brothers have links to the Syrian Social Nationalist Party, an ally of Hezbollah. And in fact, in 2008, the Syrian Social Nationalist Party participated in the assassination of a former Lebanese prime minister and assisted Hezbollah in Beirut. When did you become aware of the links between the Kawam brothers and the Syrian Social Nationalist Party?
Thank you, Daniel. Please return.
Senator, thank you for your question. Just a point of clarification. I paid for my own expenses and travel on that trip. I was not aware of any accusations of these 2 Lebanese Americans associations until after the trip occurred.
And that's when you reimbursed?
Correct.
Because
Correct.
originally-
Not because of, I wanted to make sure that there were no perceived conflicts of interest. I addressed this specific question to these Lebanese Americans who had organized the trip, and they vehemently denied any associations with that group.
There is not a great deal in the public record about what you and Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad discussed for so long in January of 2017. And I think there's a great deal of interest from the American people about what was discussed in that meeting. So what did you talk about, and did you press Assad?
I never got that. Why, if a senator talks to an enemy, in quote, right, of a country, although the country has an embassy in that country and they have an embassy in Washington, if a senator talks to them, you want to come and do this attack of oh, it's shady, it's shady. Man, we just got Menendez from the senator from New Jersey today. He got sentenced for 11 years in prison today. I'm sorry, yesterday. He got sentenced for 11 years in prison for negotiating with our friend Egypt. So I never got that. Like, if you talk to a foreign country and they Russia or they Syria, then I need to go after you. Why? What does it matter? I mean, unless you have proof that they talk something shady. Listen, wouldn't it be nice if some senator of America talks to Russia and it's like being nice and they're negotiating with us? That was amazing to bring peace. It is the component of American politics that wants perpetual violence, that wants perpetual conflict.
On things like his use of chemical weapons, systematic torture, and the killing of so many Syrians.
Yes, Senator. I upon returning from this trip, I met with people like then Leader Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer, talked to them and answered their questions about the trip. And quite frankly, I was surprised that there was no one from the intelligence community or the State Department who reached out or showed any interest whatsoever in my takeaways from
So
that.
it seems like it's going to be difficult. I'm going to end it here. It seems like it's going to be difficult for Tulsi Gabbard to be approved. I know that sounds crazy. So I think that she's not going to get more than 60 votes, and she could potentially get like 40. And this is because you have Republicans like the one from New Hampshire, who's more of a center person, and Democrats want to do vendetta on her. I think that's some legitimate questions there. And definitely there's a component of wanting to bring an outsider into this, an outsider who's going to perhaps attack the deep state from the perspective of those who think that there's a deep state and kind of destroy it from within. And I think that those are things that the government itself, right, the government workers themselves, the Senate, the people, the bureaucracy, they see as a threat. And it's never going to be clear for me if there is really a threat or there is not, because unfortunately the media and those in government are in a benefit to not have her be put in place. But I'm not going to be saying that she's a freaking hero because I know her personally. But I did allow you to answer that. And in the survey that I had, Tulsi Gabbard is a 35% said that she was shady. Listen, guys, I'm going to have to let you go and close this live because President Trump is going to speak now. So that's more important, right? But I'm going to keep you informed with Tulsi Gabbard. And this conversation is not going to end here. Subscribe to this channel and give me more likes and give me support. And we'll be back in about 3 minutes with Donald Trump live. And he's going to, I believe, refer to what's happening with that plane crash. I'll see you in a few.